Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name's Luke Payson, and I am beyond honored to be joined by the first ever double champ of 247 Fighting Championships, the handsome, the best, the Wolverine, Ethan Goss. Champ, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Always glad to be here. So
it is always good to chat with you both in person and video like this. The only thing I like better than being in the commentary booth with Ryan Kavanaugh, you and me, like we've done a few times, has been being in the commentary booth like I was last night, watching you make history in the cage. Crazy week, I know. Originally, it was going to be your featherweight defense. You're already a record holder in featherweight. You've defended it more than the previous featherweight champ, John DeJesus, who never defended it. You had 2 title defenses. It was going to be your third. The opportunity came up for it to be a lightweight fight against a very tough opponent. Give us your thoughts on the fight. I know there's a lot.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, first off, backing up to how it became a lightweight fight. I think I got the call Wednesday night while I was at the gym. And, they said that he got sick over the weekend and he lost some crucial training days and all that stuff. And he wasn't going to be able to make 45. And my first response was, all right, we'll just do a catch weight at 150 and put the belt aside. Well, then, they was like, well, they don't think he's going to make 150. And I'm like, well, what's he think he's going to come in at? And they said anywhere between 51 and 55. And I'm like, okay. And I said, well, I need to talk to, I was at the gym when they called. So I'm like, Ray was there with me. So we got Darren on the horn. And as soon as Darren answered the phone, I said to Ray and Darren, I said, here's the deal. I'll do it at 155, but you're putting 150 there. I'm going to have him put the 155 title on the line. We're going to go for double champ status. And, that just came off the fly in my head. And I called Ryan and Jim back right away and said, hey, we'll do it at 155, but the lightweight world title is on the line. And, they didn't really blink at it. My dogs are going to start barking. They didn't really blink at it. They weren't too crazy about possibly giving him a title shot off, him not being able to make the featherweight. But I reassured them that I was like, dude, I'm telling you, the title's not going to Arkansas. So they agreed with it. And that's how it ended up becoming that way. And then, then we had more problems because his paperwork for his eye stuff was wrong. So as soon as he got here and flew in, they had to take him to get his eye exam done. And we ended up having a late night at weigh-ins, waiting for him to get there to make sure he was on weight and stuff. As far as the fight, super, super tough, dude. Like one of the toughest competitors I've ever faced in my life in all sports that I've ever done. Very hard style to fight. He's kind of one of them guys that will like bore you to death. No action, then blitz. And he wants to get you to overextend. And, I was finding my, rhythm and finding my range in the first round, and I was landing some good shots. And then he started to catch on to my timing where he started to like bail out and try to pull counter. And then it was the nut shot. During the nut shot, when I was laying there holding my beans, I was thinking to myself, like, I got to switch it up. Like, he's starting to figure it out. He's starting to figure me out already. I got to start point fighting. Like, this isn't going to be pretty. This isn't going to be the most exciting fight. But if I don't start point fighting him, he's going to clip me. And the dude's he's got the power to put anybody to sleep at our weight class. So I had to start point fighting him. I had to play a real strong distance game with him. And that was just the adjustment I made. And luckily it worked out.
Yeah, great adjustment. We got to talk about the nut shot because it was just posted on Facebook just a little bit ago. A picture of you holding the cup after the fight, and it's broken. And that's that means a lot when a cup is broken. I'm
Yeah.
guessing it wasn't a surprise to you afterwards to find that it was broken because clearly, I would. Was that the hardest nut shot you've ever taken in a fight or training?
Yeah, that was I mean, I'm taking some bad ones in training, but that one was up there with one of that was the worst one I ever took in a fight. I when I was holding my cup, I felt it like crunch,
Oh,
and
crinkle
I'm like,
crunch. Yeah,
yeah, and I'm like, okay, I think my cup's broke. And I didn't check it until I got home today,
right.
and it was definitely broke. Um, it was broken like four places, and that's a diamond cup, which are the best cups on the market too, that are lifetime guaranteed. Um, but yeah, that was not the most pleasant time in my life that I've ever had. That was and the bad part was it wasn't just directly on, like it was the force was directly on, but the cup slid up over my jewels. So it was like a double whammy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I mean, that was really tough. It was tough to watch, way tougher to be you. I did comment that at one point you're really doing a lot of diaphragmatic breathing, which is important, like, getting those deep breaths to allow your nervous system to calm down because that's the big
Yeah.
thing. It's not just the pain, it's the nervous system kicks in and there's a lot going on. We've seen a lot in big fights, in MMA fights, where some guy takes a low blow and then their chin is susceptible for the next round or two because their body's overloaded, right? Like people forget that a nut shot doesn't just go away. Like you have
Yeah.
a
No, you gotta let
neurological,
it run its course.
right,
Like,
right. You got to let it run its course. You seem to really kind of balance your recovery. A lot of time, guys try to act tough and try to, and sometimes referees are like, Chip gave you time, but sometimes referees are like, hey, come on. And I think sometimes guys kind of rush themselves back in, look like you took the time you need. Were you aware of that in the remainder of that round and early next to kind of, uh, keep moving so that you don't potentially take one of his hits while your body's still recovering? Was that at all on your mind coming out
no,
of
by
that?
the time it started, I was ready to go.
You're
Like when
back.
I stood up, I'm like, okay. And Chip was like, he's like, you got enough time. You got more. He's like, take some more time if you want. I'm like, give me like another 30, 40 seconds. I took another 30, 40 seconds and I'm like, all right, I'm good. Like, let's go. Let's get it on with. So, once I started going again, I was fine. I did get clipped again there in the clinch, but it was obviously nowhere near. It wasn't even enough for me to want to stop. And I accidentally clipped him
Yeah.
with one. And that was when he kind of paused and I paused because I was like, oh shit, I'm sorry. And I
Right.
literally said that to him, like, oh shit, I'm sorry, buddy. And he was like, oh no, you're good. And I'm like, you good? And he's like, yeah, no, yeah. And I kind of got confused for a second, like, are we stopping or are we going? And Chip didn't step in. So I'm like, all right, I guess we're going.
Yeah, yeah, that actually makes sense. Your comment from our side, you probably couldn't see it. He actually smiled a little bit. Like I could see that
Yeah.
there was a blow that might have glanced, and I could see him smile. And I bet the smile was from your comment, like, oh,
Yeah.
my bad. Like I bet that kind of made him smile because you're in a fight. But we saw that there was, I'm gonna say, four head kicks where you went just over his head that looked like they could have very well put him down if they had connected. Um, like, do you think you were close on those? Do you remember the head kicks? I'm sure there was a
There
lot
was
going on, but I remember.
there was at least two
Okay.
that landed flush. I mean, I got over top of his head and I landed shin basically right above. Um, I landed shin basically right above his ear. Um, two of them landed like that, and he took them and just shook his head and smiled and shook his head no. And then there was at least two knees that got through, two or three knees that I clipped
Yes.
him on the jaw with. And the one was that head turn off the cage. I head turned him off the cage and I threw that left knee off of it and it clipped him on the end of the jaw. Like, and it was his mouth was open and it like wiggled his jaw. Um, that one was hard. And then I think it was the beginning of the third round. I teeped him right in the face
Yep.
with a rear teep.
Yep.
And the dude just had he had a will to win. Like them shots that I hit him with, and Chip even said to me, like, I don't know how that boy didn't go down. Like, I don't know how that man did not hit the mat with some of them shots because you landed clean. Um, as far as the decision,
Yeah,
I thought I definitely had it 2 rounds to 1. I haven't seen the fight yet, but I thought I had from what I felt in there and being in there, I thought I probably had round 1 and round 3. And then somebody else was like, "No, I thought you definitely had round 2." I was like, "Well, round 2 is the one where he held me on the fence the longest."
yeah,
So I kind of could have seen where I lost 2. But when they called it a split, my heart sank because I've been there. Maybe a little bit of PTSD. I've
yeah.
been there too many times. Took me back to the Bellator days.
Like,
But I thought, oh my God, like, here we go. And then when they announced the third judge was 30-27, I was like, that's got to be me. It
yeah,
has to be me.
yeah,
Like, that has to be mine. And of course they say and new, and you still don't know who
right.
it is because
Don't
we're
know.
both going for and new.
Good do.
And then they announced red corner, and I was just like, then it was just flooded with emotions. Like,
Yeah, I can imagine you're experiencing something in there that's so unique. All those emotions. I was in the cage waiting for it as well. And it was a heck of a fight. Hats off to Solo Hatley Jr., like you mentioned. Now I'm remembering the teep kick because yeah, you Anderson Silva him right to the
yeah,
face. He took that. I remember some knees. I remember watching you guys warm up backstage and you were practicing, grab, turn, knee. So
yeah,
you hit one of those, and I remember you hitting a couple of those. So his style to like from watching it, the biggest thing besides his massive power punching, which he didn't really hit you too much on the power punching, is just that low center of gravity, really
yeah,
big base, pushing up under your arms up against the
yeah.
cage. It took a while.
That that was like, so I mean, he looked like a freaking, you know, like he was strong as an ox, but like pound for pound strength wise, I didn't feel outpowered
Oh, okay,
whatsoever with him.
sure.
It was the lower center gravity. Like, you seen where we got into a couple, like in the end of the second round when he shot in for that takedown. And at one point he got both his arms around my legs and I was able to stop him from,
Right,
forcing off that takedown. Like, strength wise, he wasn't,
right.
like something unbelievable. The lower center gravity that he had in the clinch he was like trying to move a rock. You know what I mean? Like a
Yeah.
big rock. He was like trying to roll a rock around. It was just real heavy and low.
Mm.
It wasn't like he wasn't light anywhere. So that's why I had a hard time turning him in the clinch. And I was able to turn him a couple times and stuff,
Oh yeah.
but like he just, I mean, the kid was stout. Like, there's no doubt about it. The kid was, you know, he's a world class competitor, and to fight the style that he fights, like, that takes a lot of time and a lot of experience to figure that out because he relies a lot on pull counters and timing, you know what I mean, and getting people to overextend. And to do that and fight that style when you're 5'6",
Mm.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
That's impressive. And like I said, the kid had power to put anybody to sleep.
Oh yeah. Well, and like what you mentioned, it's really the fact that up against the cage, you had to build him up. You had to like build him up
Yeah.
in order to then spin him off, and that took time. So I saw it similar to you. I mean, obviously, if a judge saw it 30-27, great. I saw it like you. I saw a 2-1 with the second going to him because of that pressure up against the cage. Not that
Yeah.
he did a ton with it, but the tricky part with MMA is pressuring up against the cage is doing something. Even if you're not
It's
doing something, it's still
yeah,
doing something. So
just the
that's
position.
it's the
It's
position.
just the placement of the position
Yep,
that you can lose the round with.
yep,
And I've been there before. That's how I lost my first professional title fight. That's how I lost the Bellator fight.
yeah.
Um, as far as like, when you're in that point, like if you got a guy like that you can't turn, then you just got to stay active, which has got to be knees and punches and short elbows and all that stuff. And while we were in the clinch, because I knew from watching some of his film, like he would throw elbows when he was in tight like that, shove off and throw elbows. So I was just like, okay, I need to keep his hands occupied and his arms tied up, and just work short, choppy door knocker punches and, what I mean, just stay busy. And the more active I stay, the more I'm getting strikes off, the better it's looking, even though my back's against the fence.
Sure, sure. And let's talk about the fact that I think it was round one. Yes, it was round one. You got nut shot. You were on the ground. It became clear that you were bleeding from a cut kind of up in your hairline.
Yeah. Right here.
Yep. Oh, okay, right there. Yeah, right there. And I think I made the comment because I saw you at some point mentioning to Chip Snyder, the ref. I thought you mouthed the word headbutt or head clash, head
Yeah.
thing.
And
Is
that's
that what
what
it
it
was?
was.
Yeah.
The entry to that clinch where I got the nut shot, we clashed as he come
It was
forward.
right
I
then.
I put
Gotcha.
my head down and he come in head forward and we clashed head to head. And of course, when you're cut on your face, I can't see it.
No.
I have no idea how bad it was. And I'm touching. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of blood. Like I'm seeing blood. I can feel it running down my face. Like, and that's why I said to Chip, that was a head clash. And he said, I seen it. I said, how bad is it? He goes, oh, it's not bad. I said, okay, because in an instance where if that would have been a really bad cut that they would have stopped the fight for, if it was a punch or an elbow or something, I lose by TKO.
Yeah.
But since it's a head clash, which is the unintentional illegal strike,
Unintentional illegal strike.
therefore it goes to a no contest.
No
You
contest.
know what I mean?
That would have been a huge deal. It is my assumption, champ. I'm gonna love saying that from now on. It's my assumption, champ, that it's likely that the judge, I don't know which judge it was, but it's likely that the judge that saw it in his favor likely gave round one to him because of damage. That's my
Yeah.
assumption. Unfortunately, even though I was able to put it together that it was a head clash, because I was thinking I didn't see an elbow land, and is there a chance that a punch would split open? Maybe because you're thin there, but typically it's an elbow or a knee to split the forehead or a head clash. But it's likely that the judge just saw blood, right? Because it was down here and ran down the back at one point. Saw blood on your face and thought, oh, damage goes to Hatley. That would be my assumption. I didn't confirm, but that's that real little gray area, which it's tough with an accidental clash. But it was incredible. It was awesome. Obviously, he flew in from Arkansas. His team clearly has put together a great fighter in him. You guys both, which I think made it more special. You guys both are pushing 20 pro fights plus all your amateur fights plus his amateur fights, and it's pretty rare to get somebody with your experience level and his experience level still in the regional stage, still battling it out. I mean, I think that just kind of raises it up. We've talked many times, a lot of your post-fight interviews. You still have a great one from, I think, a year ago when you called out Dana White and said, on 1 week notice, 2 weeks notice, you're ready for the UFC. Do you think at this point, as double champ status, which I do know that the UFC does pay attention to, regional titles and things, and that's a big deal. Do you think this has cemented it going forward for you to get a call?
It definitely didn't hurt.
No, get her.
I surely hope so, man. Like I said, what we go through just to get in there sometimes is just absolutely lethal. And there's times I wouldn't even wish it on my worst enemy. The shit that we have to do and what we have to go through and what we put our bodies through and our minds through. And it gets so hard sometimes. And sometimes like the mental part of it can be so frustrating. And Kama and I were talking in the back, and like Kama put 7 in a row together and then got called to the UFC.
You're up to
And
6.
and I'm at 6. To do that and to be perfect, to say the least, 6 times in a row or 7 times in a row, against high level competition, because like I don't know how many people say, like, yeah, I'm sure, like I said, I didn't see it back, and I know it wasn't the most exciting matchup, um, but that was a world class fight with 2 world class guys. That was me at 16 professional fights, 17 professional fights, and Solo at 18 professional fights. That's two world-class guys battling it out, and it becomes chess, not checkers, right? Each
Okay.
move has to be strategic. Each move has to count. Each step, everything you do has to be taken accounted for. And that's where you'll see fights slow down from the beginning amateur fights, where they're going balls to the walls and trying to take each other's head off, and it just looks like a barroom street brawl. And then you see guys like me and Solo, who's calculated, picking their shots, picking and moving, doing everything they need to do to, get the job done. So as far as that was literally a world class main event in Pittsburgh. Winning the lightweight, 247 lightweight world title on top of already having the featherweight 247 world title. One cemented my legacy in Pittsburgh. The first person in Pittsburgh to do it, and that's why that was why there was history made. Ryan Kavanaugh, actually told me, like, before the fight, like, if you do this, there's a strong argument that you're the greatest fighter that ever come out of Pittsburgh. And maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. I don't know. I don't really think too much into it. Guess that'll be when it's all said and done. But yeah, I just think, the UFC's got to take notice to that, man. I mean, that's 6 in a row, and that's not 6 in a row over bums. That's 6 in a row over guys with winning records. Two Bellator guys, with Sutho and Solo Hatley, and stud wrestler and Matt Gaffney, who was a Wisconsin state champion, and then another stud wrestler in Calvin Harbaugh, and then UFC, Brian Barberina's younger brother, Kevin Barberina, like, and then Tobias Taylor, who was on the USA World Kickboxing team and went undefeated in that tournament. Like, I'm beating legit people in these 6-fight win streaks. So it's not like I'm just beating these guys that are 2-5 and shit like that, and I'm not just padding my record or anything. So, I mean, I'm fighting a tough competition. I'm doing everything I'm being asked to do by my management team. And, we had to make adjustment on the fly, move up to 155. And I don't really think they were really, really loved that idea, but I just had a good gut feeling about it, and all worked out in the end.
It all worked out in the end. Sometimes those unexpected things lead to history being made. In your case, would have been history had it been at 145, because you would have extended a 3-time defense, which has never been done. So that would have been history. 2-time belt winner, obviously, champ status. That's gonna, not only will you always be the first in 247 fighting championship history, but that's going to be really hard to beat. We've seen that even at the UFC level. It's very hard to do. I was saying on the broadcast last night, of course, you know this, the first ever pro champ was Kama at 155. He went to the UFC. The first ever 145 champ, of course, was John Jesus. He went to Bellator. You are now holding both of those. And so it's like, you really are right there. Like, the only other 2 pro champs, there's been some amateurs, of course, the only 2 other pro champs have gone on. So
Yeah.
it's you're right at that level. Let's talk a little bit. I'm sure you'll do a follow-up with the 247 combat podcast, but Ryan presented you with a special thank you. He's done it. I think that's only the first time for MMA. They did have a knife, like a bonus award knife for you. What did that mean to you? You obviously got really emotional with the win, the stress of the split decision, and then going right into the relief of being named champ. And then Ryan grabs the mic from me and starts talking about how much you mean. You're the first fighter to ever fight 10 times within 247. Of course, all of those were pro. I think there will be some amateur fighters that eventually fight double digits, but for you, 10 pro fights within 247. What did all of what Ryan said mean to you last night and now?
So it's not like I have a multi-fight deal contract with 247. We basically have a relationship that's based off loyalty.
Mm.
Um, Ryan's loyal to me, and I'm loyal to him, and and Hunter and the rest of those guys there. Like even when I'm not on the card, I'm helping them with shit, whether they need matchups or something like that. I'm pitching them ideas. Patton's fight fell through. I was literally, while I'm getting ready for my own fight, I'm texting Hunter names, to try to get Patton back on the card.
Yeah.
And so I've always been like in good spirits with him in that sense. But my philosophy is I want to see them succeed and I want to see them do good because without them, there's no fight promotions in Pittsburgh. There's nobody doing anything. They're the top of the line. They've lasted, the longest out of like Pinnacle and Gladiators of the
Yeah,
Cage
I
and all
think
that
they
stuff.
just broke it. I forget the exact
Yeah.
number, but 19 or 20, right around there, I think is the most for Pinnacle and Gladiators in the Cage. I think they're now officially, it might be one or two away, but they're very close
Yeah.
to being the
And
longest running. Yeah.
they're not stopping anytime soon.
No.
And I would rather see them succeed, you know what I mean, um than me personally get all the gain. Like when I look at things, and this is like kind of a pro wrestling term, it's like what's best for business.
Mm.
Um, Last night, me going up to 155, them being able to promote a world title fight, you know what I mean, still without losing, you know, the featherweight title and losing their co-main event with Patton being off. Me going up to 155 was best for business. It was best for business for me, but it was also best for business for them. Um, so I try to, work this mutual thing with them, and it works out really well. And like I said, I that was all a surprise to me. I didn't know Ryan was doing that. When Ryan got on the mic, I'm like, "What's going on?" And then I seen the knife in his hand, and he started, saying, and I honestly, God, I did not know that was my 10th time competing in the 247 cage. Um, but yeah, it just kind of threw me off, and I had the whole promo and everything already in my head and what I was gonna say, but I was expecting to speak to you. I was expecting to, you to ask me one question and me to thank everybody, and then you to ask me something else, and then I was gonna drop the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour line. But it kind of threw it off for me, so I just had to like improvise on that. And then you ended up coming out and interviewing me anyways.
Yeah, I
So
wasn't gonna pass it up. I mean, I could have because you had done such a great job. You're incredible. You do wonderful promos, and it's been an honor to interview you all the times I have. But Ryan did a great job. That was so nice to present that honor to you. And then you obviously took the mic from Ryan, gave your sort of, I could tell it was more of your prepared promo. And I just figured, you know what? I want an opportunity to interview the champ. So I was like, all right, I'm doing it. Just walked out, and you were nice enough to give. And I think it was nice because you were able to answer a little bit more of some of the questions and focus a little bit more. But it was incredible. I'm really hoping the professional photographers that we have a great photo of you with the two belts and me interviewing you at the end, because that'll have
yeah.
a place that might have a place right here. We'll see if we can get a good shot. I'd love to be able to put it up right next to my logo. That will be a
Yeah.
defining time for me too. But it's just always been incredible. Can't wait to see what's coming next for you. Obviously, you've got a lot of great things going on in your life. You have a beautiful wife. I think you just passed a year, and so a lot of great things going on for you guys. This history making, it's just incredible. Hats off to you, Gorilla House. We didn't get a chance to actually say that you're from the Gorilla House gym, but if people don't know that by now, they haven't been paying attention. Coach
Yeah.
Ross and Coach Cassidy, and of course the mole rat. No, just that was a
Yeah.
joke.
The mole rat.
I knew his name was Mole Rat. I wanted to kind of play with that. The Mole Rat was in your corner. Cam's incredible, and Big Man Dan. Just the family,
Yeah.
the recognition you have in Pittsburgh. We talked about it before. You don't actually fight out of Pittsburgh. You're adopted to Pittsburgh. People, you cross
Yeah.
street at the Mat Factory. People love you in Pittsburgh, but you're actually not from Pittsburgh. But yet you're a Pittsburgh son, nonetheless.
Yeah, and like that's something that I could have never dreamt of was, Pittsburgh accepting me the way that they do. Basically, that I'm a hometown guy and they treat me like one, even though I'm from 2, 3 hours away.
Yeah.
But my whole team, having my team there and then being able to be part of the Mat Factory team, like you've seen Isaac and Justin
Mm.
walked out with me,
Yep.
as my entourage going to the cage. And those two were a huge factor in this training camp as well. And we got Dirty Dan Albright next, taking on Cody Gamble in a rematch
Rematch.
in November for the title at Bizarro
Title fight.
up
Yeah.
in Erie. And then we also got a newcomer, Tyler Dybert, who is going to be making his debut. And Tyler Dybert, the best way for me to explain him is he's a 205-pound Cam Allgaier. So
Oh, no way.
yeah,
Wow.
he's stout, and he was a huge factor in this camp. He was built like Solo, shorter, stocky guy, but working with him that whole entire camp, I was working with a heavier, stronger guy the whole entire time. He was a big factor and played a big part in this camp. So I'm excited for him to see what he does here coming up in November.
Well, that'll be awesome. This is my official extension. I'd love to have him on for an interview before his debut. Come out of your gym, of course, with you guys in his corner. Big things in store for him. Can't wait to have him on to kind of kick off his MMA career. It's always an honor chatting with you. I really appreciate you taking time. You literally just won the belt, the second belt under. It hasn't even been 24 hours. So I appreciate you jumping on, and thanks so much, Champ. It's just an honor. Honor's all mine. I really appreciate you. For everybody out there that loves regional MMA, particularly Pittsburgh regional MMA, subscribe to MMA Fancast, and we'll have Ethan the Wolverine Goss on until he's 80 years old and still fighting. So, although Ryan would say that you look 80 now, but hey.
Yeah, I'm getting there. So thank you, man. It's my pleasure. It's always a pleasure to be on here. So
Awesome. I appreciate you. You've been listening to the Champ Ethan, the Wolverine Goss on MMA Fancast. Thanks so much, Champ.
yep, thank you, Luke. You have a good one.
You got it, brother. You too.